Fall is here and winter is coming. It's time to get that jet ski put away if you haven't yet. It's also time to winterize the irrigation system. Unfortunately, in the middle of making a video about that topic, my air compressor decided it was all set. I heard a loud ping, after which the compressor would no longer build pressure. I had a hunch as to what was wrong, and I knew I had some spare parts somewhere on a shelf. I wasn't sure if my notion would fix the problem, but I figured, let's give it a try. Normally my air compressor will build pressure from 0 to around 110 psi in about 2 minutes. At the point where I put my finger on the gauge to show it had reached about 30 psi, the compressor had been running for about 10 minutes or more and it never went higher. Also, the sound is different. I'll come back to that later in the video wrap-up. When I had my oil leak issue with this compressor, I bought a number of extra spare parts just in case. Fortunately, I was able to remember where I kept that box of parts. If you're curious, I'll leave a link to that oil leak fix here. Among the spare parts are a new oil diaphragm, a piston kit, and the bit I need, a valve rebuild kit, which consists of a valve plate, a valve reed, gaskets, and locator pins. With all this in hand, it's time to take some stuff apart. First, I remove the safety shroud, which is held on by 2 bolts needing an 8mm socket and 2 Phillips head screws. Next, I use a 19mm wrench to remove the exhaust tube from the cylinder head. The head bolts need a 14mm socket. This compressor has seen a lot of hours, so the head needed a small amount of persuasion to get off, as did the reed plate. Be careful when using a screwdriver to pry things off of the head. It's cast aluminum and very soft. Under the reed plate is the reed itself, and I'm not sure if the offending part is the reed plate, the reed, or both, but since I'm in there, replacing both is a prudent move. The locator pins just sit in their respective holes. Now, the rebuild kit I got came with the new pins, but in case yours doesn't, make sure you keep track of the old ones. Don't worry about that debris that fell into the bore, I'll clean it up on reassembly. The gasket material on the head plate was really baked on. I first tried to remove the old gasket with a plastic tool so as not to gouge the soft aluminum, but that was going nowhere. I ended up using the blade from my box cutter to scrape and remove the old material. I was very careful to keep a low angle between the blade and the aluminum surface in order not to dig into the soft aluminum. I'll leave links to the tools and parts I used in this video down in the description. If you find this video useful or entertaining, please strike a like. It really helps me out with getting a couple more views on these videos. After the old gasket was removed, I used some brake cleaner to clean up and degrease the surface. A fit check on the new gasket and I'm ready for reassembly. First, I installed the locator pins for the reed and reed plate. As promised, I cleaned out the bore and removed all that debris. Then I fitted the reed plate gasket, and the reed plate. Note the locator holes on the reed plate that engage the locator pins. Next comes the head gasket and finally the head. The head bolts are reinstalled. I hand tightened as evenly as possible, then torqued to 15 foot-pounds using a cross pattern. The exhaust tube is reattached and snugged up. Test time. The compressor reached 110 psi in typical fashion and held pressure. Last thing to do is reinstall the safety shroud and get back to winterizing that irrigation system. Well, that whole process took maybe an hour and a half, and the compressor's been running great ever since. Now, just for reference, the first indication I had that there was an issue was the sound of the compressor. Here's what the compressor usually sounds like, and here's what it sounded like when it malfunctioned. Unfortunately, there's no new compressor in my immediate future, but hopefully, someday soon, an issue will arise that I just can't fix. Well, if you've enjoyed the video, please strike a like and let me know what you thought down in the comments. Until next time, I'm mainejason. Get out there and give it a try.